Welcome back to Torah, Health and Fitness, the Friday edition. This is parashah Acharei Mot, usually coupled with Kedoshim. And in the middle of the parashah, at the end of the parashah Acharei Mot, we have a list of all the taboo sexual relationships. What is this doing here? Why is this read alongside the avoda of Yom Kippur? These relationships, you're not allowed to marry your sister or your mother or your daughter. I mean, are these really an issue? I mean, obviously they're an issue for some people, but how widespread are these temptations? So we can say, well, historically, once upon a time, thousands of years ago. Okay, but what about today? This clearly, it's the message of the whole book, Body and Soul. The argument of our entire series is that it's the message of the Torah that we're given taiva, we're given desire to give us an opportunity to raise ourselves from behema to b'tselem Elokim. That's the goal of the Torah, that we should use the taiva and not necessarily deny ourselves taiva, but learn how to control it to raise ourselves up. In the last episode, we quoted Rav Hirsch in Horeb, where he says, specifically around eating, self-control in eating, says Rav Hirsch, is the mother of many virtues. It leads to temperance and all other enjoyments and is a rung on the ladder of holiness. It's a beautiful idea. What does that exactly mean, self-control in eating? Well, the simple meaning is not to overeat. And we offered once upon a time, a few weeks ago, and I'd like to offer again. In the book, we put a chart. See, the biggest struggle many of us have is not on a weekday, but it's on Shabbos and Yom Tov, where we often have food that's tastier than normal and in greater quantities than normal, and there can be a greater challenge in not overeating. And the chart we made was just a way of keeping track of what you're eating and calculating. You don't realize sometimes maybe how many extra calories you're eating, and you could have 6 days of great self-control, and that 7th day can ruin everything in terms of your health goals and eating. And what we did was we created a Microsoft Excel-friendly spreadsheet where we put in all the values for you. So all you have to do is put in serving size, how many servings you had. So it's obviously approximate, but you put in how many bowls of cholent you had, you put in how many pieces of chicken you had, etc. And it will tell you the sum total of the calories you're eating. And what's really cool about it is that you could now play with it. Say, I had 2 bowls of cholent. What happens to my total if I had 1 bowl? And you can see how that impacts the bottom line, and it can be very instructive in giving us that feedback. So if you want a copy of that, no charge, just send me an email. The contact info is at here on Torah anytime. It's also, you can go to jsli.org or torahhealth.org and be happy to send that to you. But there are other aspects of eating that involve self-control. It's not just about quantity, and it's not even just about quality of food. Those are obviously important. The Aruch HaShulchan, for example, which is based on a Gemara in Eruvin, says that in Choshen Mishpat, he brings that a person should always leave a little bit of food on their plate. Leaving some food on your plate is a sign of self-control. It's a sign of satisfaction. And if you watch great people, how they eat, if you pay attention, you'll see they never clean their plate. They always leave a little bit of food. Again, it's just a practice of self-control. It's a derech eretz of eating. Another example, which I'd like to share with you today, is it's a halacha l'maisa or chayim. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to read the Mishnah Berurah to you on this, which is extremely important, I think. It's about talking while eating. Many people have, we have a Shabbos table, we have a Simcha table, and we like to have conversation. We like to say Divrei Torah. And saying Divrei Torah and And we even like to talk about the food, and we like to talk about how the food was prepared, and where we bought the food, and what recipe we used, and it's all part of, I'm sure there's, elevating the meal when we have these conversations, and we like to ask people about how your week was, and how are you doing, and what did you accomplish this week, and so on and so forth. But what about when you're actually in the middle of eating? Like, what about when there's food in your mouth, and you've got food in your mouth, and you say, oh, this is so delicious, or you want to ask a question, and you got food in your mouth. Some people don't mind that. That's just normal in the family, that we talk with food in our mouth. Other people feel that that's somehow not proper. Well, what does the Torah say about it? So the Or Chaim says, Shulchan Aruch Or Chaim, one should not speak during a meal. Black and white. One should not speak during a meal. Why not? Lest the food enter the trachea. And even if someone sneezed at the meal, one may not say Gesundheit. Hear this? He's saying that when a person's speaking while eating, what happens? How do we eat? We have two pipes in the back of our throat, right in the back. We have the esophagus, where the food goes, and we have the trachea, where the air goes. And in order to speak, the trachea has to be open. Well, if the trachea is open, there's food in the mouth, there's a risk food will go down the trachea, and a person would choke, chas v'shalom. It's actually a sakana. Actually, choking, according to the National Safety Council, is the fourth leading cause of unintentional injury death in the United States, killing over 5,000 people per year. And children are a high-risk group and gain much when their parents model safe eating. If the children see the parents talking with food in their mouth, they're going to model that. And if the children see parents are careful to chew and swallow 100% before speaking, the children will learn to model that. It's a big sakana. And I'd like to share the Mishnah Berurah on the same point, on this Or Chaim. The Mishnah Berurah says, this rule of not talking while eating applies even to speaking words of Torah. The prohibition is specifically at the actual time of eating due to sakana, due to danger. For when the voice exits, the epiglottis opens, and the food can enter in danger. This is Mishnah Berurah speaking. This is not some doctor, or some modern scientist who's trying to, insert into your Jewish life something that's not Torah. This is the Chafetz Chaim in the Mishnah Berurah speaking. However, says the Chafetz Chaim in Mishnah Berurah, between courses it is allowed, and it's a mitzvah upon each person to learn Torah at his table. For any table without words of Torah is like eating from the offerings of the dead, as Pirkei Avos. Okay, we want Divrei Torah. We want to share. It's a mitzvah to do so. But as Rav Hirsch says, self-control in eating is the mother of many virtues. It's not just about what we eat. It's not just about the quantity of food. It's also about how we eat. You can control yourself. You don't need to speak right now. You can wait for 30 seconds till you swallow your food. Practice leaving a little food on your plate. Practice chewing and swallowing before you speak, and you'll see you and your table and your mishpacha will all be elevated. And wishing you a good Shabbos, and you should be gesund.